Chibber. So, good evening, everyone, for joining in. Here we can start the interactive and the video, please. Yes. So welcome everyone to the 77th episode under Trends Literature series. And I'm Neeta Aneja and I'm the founder of Trends, which is the platform for art, culture, social and literary experiences. And before I begin this much awaited conversation, which is live right now on YouTube, and we have a live interactive going on Zoom, I request everyone to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Trends Literature series, and you can easily check on all the lovely interactions that we've had till now. So we are really privileged that authors of the much awaited and much coveted book, Alone in the Crowd, Overcoming Loneliness of Urban Living, they're joining us today. Dr. Samir Parikh, he's an eminent psychiatrist, as we all know, and he is the director of Department of Mental Health and Behavioral Sciences at Fortis Healthcare. He's been a much sought after and well-known speaker and expert at various national and international forums and media on mental health issues. Joining us also today is the co-author of the book, Kamna Chhibber. She is a clinical psychologist and head of mental health at Department of Mental Health and Behavioral Sciences at Fortis Healthcare. She has been working extensively with schools and community to promote and make mental health a priority for all of us. So welcome Dr. Parikh and Kamna for gracing our platform today and discussing with us your book, Alone in the Crowd.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So my first question, as I'll delve into the conversation immediately, is to Dr. Parikh. You know, you mentioned in the book that being mindfulness in your daily existence can lead to substantial dividends. You know, all of us have felt lonely at one time or the other, but you've said that change or transformation is possible. So please tell us, I have read the book, but I would like you to tell the viewers right now about the book. And I must tell everyone there's an underlying positivity running all across the book. So Dr. Parikh, something about the book, please.
See, I'll be honest here and let me give you a perspective. Even though the book is now released where we are well into this almost the second year of COVID, and a lot of people, readers and feedback coming in is the relatableness that's happening in context of COVID. But the fact is we had conceptualized and written the book way before COVID. So throughout our clinical experience over the past, let's say 7 to 10 years, more and more people, especially the young population who would come to us, would come with aspects of I don't have time, I don't have me time, I feel lonely. And during this time, people started talking a lot worldwide about urban loneliness. And I always found it so oxymoronic in its own way. Urban cities, densely populated. And we talk about loneliness. We talk about you don't get your own space enough. And then we also talk about, oh, I feel lonely. And that was the thought behind the book. Then let's understand what makes us feel lonely. And before it becomes more difficult, maybe even disabling to us, how about we do something about it? And so the book talks about, A, we accept it that there's a problem, understand it, do something about it. So that's how I look at Alone in the Crowd.
So very right. And coming to you, Kamna, so how did the book really come out? You know, you both are such busy professionals. It'll be so interesting to know the process of writing the book together. And how did the idea of writing this book on loneliness come about? I know part of it Dr. Parikh has already answered, but I'd like to know your perspective.
Part of it, like Dr. Parikh said, that it's always been in the making. It's a recognition through our clinical work that loneliness is a variable, a factor, which is certainly characterizing modern urban living as a very significant variable. So that was one piece which was always there, propelled further by the pandemic, the increasing understanding in people's minds that this is something which does need to be looked at and tackled. It needs to be accepted and embraced. We need to be open to the understanding that there can be a concept of loneliness which does pervade our lives, and that's what prompted us to write this, and then also add a piece about what have we learned from the pandemic, and that was something that was very essential to us. Writing is something that we're all very passionate about, talking about mental health. We do our clinical work, yes, but for us, I think the biggest priority has always been that mental health needs to become a household name across the country, for sure, because we do realize that there is still so much stigma, so much misunderstanding, misconceptions, myths, which continue to be associated with mental health in today's day and age as well. And if we don't talk about it enough, and if we don't write about it enough, and we don't find other ways of being able to communicate more and more about these significant aspects, it's not going to reach into the depths of society, and that has been one of the biggest motivators for us always. It's reflected in the ways in which Dr. Parikh, across the years, he's well known across media, has been speaking about mental health issues, and thereafter we've been looking at writing blogs, books, and the whole process has always been that okay, you look at you look at what life is showing you. You pick up your understanding from there, link it to your clinical understanding, but you write in a way that is something which people can connect to. It doesn't have to be written in ways that would be very technically oriented. We want it to be something that every individual who would read the book would be able to identify with and take something away from it, which would help them see that there are ways in which you can take care of your own self. In this case, the context was loneliness that we had chosen.
I would say, today we've got Dr. Samir Parikh with us, and I know this is a very cliched question that I'm going to put to you, Dr. Parikh, but since you're here, and we've already done a few books on mental health earlier on a forum, but what happened that during pandemic, more and more people had mental health problems? I know the problems were already there, but they became so apparent. It was like a household epidemic, I would say. So you are the expert on this. I would go a little beyond the purview of the book and ask you, since you're here with us, what really happened that we all had multiple problems?
So try and understand this. For a moment, let's split mental illness and distress, and emotional, psychological, social, mental distress as two separate aspects. Mental illness has been there statistically in a very significant number. Depression is one of the single largest illnesses in the world, 30 million people in the world. 10% of the world's health burden is neurology, psychiatry, substance abuse. It becomes 30% in the non-fatal disease category. 700,000 people die of suicide every year. That's about 1 in every 40 minutes. Now, all this is there, not during COVID, it's been there. And the deficit of experts, the stigma of help seeking, that has been there. It's always been there. In fact, what happened during the pandemic was that pandemic affected every individual's life one way or the other. So it kind of challenged and brought new challenges to our way of living. Besides the economic aspect, the loss of life aspect, the health aspect, basically our way of living for the past 2 years stands impacted irrespective who one is. That brought its own distress. So whether the distress was in terms of anxiety about the illness, going through the isolation quarantine, going through being stuck in a place and your family somewhere else, going through work from home transition, digital education as a transition, increased digitalization for communication, going through a drastic lifestyle change, impacting sleep, appetite, weight, going through relationship challenges. Some people came closer, some people found it difficult to be continuously in the same space. So a lot of these aspects happen, and the continuous hovering anxiety for the past 2 years about uncertainty. What is it? What is coming next? Are we out of it? Is it coming again? All of that has played its own part, which is why when people started talking about their distress, there was a realization that the distress is also mental health. Something as simple as a school-going kid who was looking forward to starting school, 3-year-old has not seen school. Or board exam kids who kept on not knowing whether board exams would happen or not, and they never happened. Or somebody who was going to start a job. We've had colleagues who were hired during COVID, which was largely work from home. And rather than meeting them often, all we had was digital interface. So many challenges. And then you add the economic aspect, the loss and bereavement aspect, the illness aspect, the fear of hospitalization, all those aspects. That's why more conversations have happened. It's in a way unfortunate that it took us a pandemic to start talking more about it. But I'd also like to believe that if I see in my own career, what now, 20 plus years in practice, and if I add my years of training, then it's about 25, 26 years, awareness has increased. Stigma has been on the downslide, but it's still such a long way to go. And we have so less experts, such less acceptance, even though awareness is increasing. That's why all these mental health related conversations have increased a lot more. And that's the way to look at it. So don't allow yourself to believe that disorders have become more. There isn't enough data. We'll know that in years to come. But distress levels surely increased. And the distress level required support systems, whether economic support system, emotional support system, social support system, colleagues as support systems, peer as support systems, RWAs, Samaritans, NGOs, government, and of course, the remarkable frontline workers. So all of this put together is also the solution, and which is where the learning is, that if as a society, we stand counted for, and we realize that each one of us as an equal stakeholder, all of us can't be going in a hospital and taking care of the sick, but we can contribute by COVID appropriate behavior, by positivity, optimism, spreading help, altruism, values. That's also fighting the pandemic. And that's what a lot of people have realized, and I'm hoping now a lot more would. Third wave hopefully is going to go away soon enough. And let's see what awaits us on the other side. And I hope a post-COVID version of humankind is more human.
So very well said, sir. And your perspective had to be told. And I'm so happy that you could speak about this on a platform. Kamna, coming back to the book, I mean, what are the challenges related to urban? I know you just began to talk about it, passion earlier. So what are the challenges related to urban living and loneliness? And how does it affect people on their mental health and overall well-being?
I think that if you look at the challenges when we're talking about them from the context of urban living, there are innumerable challenges, especially if you start looking through even the index of the book, you suddenly feel that, okay, I thought that the problem was just loneliness. And suddenly I realized that there are so many dimensions, facets to where that loneliness is emanating from. The biggest challenge, of course, currently, which contributes towards loneliness in the most significant way, is the way relationships currently are. And there is a lot of transaction, which has become a part of relationships, which is something that we identify very strongly now, with people a lot of times not even being aware of who their neighbors are, what is going on with their colleague with whom they may be in fact working on a project very closely, but they would have no idea who's there in their family, what could be the challenges that they're facing. People don't necessarily take out that time to, before getting on to the transactional conversation of what they need to look at, to ask, how are you, with a genuine interest in actually wanting to know how you really are. It's just a question which is a social etiquette that seems to be getting followed by a lot of individuals. And it's also palpable in the tonality of the conversation. So I don't think people would, in fact, mostly even respond to it with a genuine, authentic response to say that I am actually not feeling well today, or I am slightly feeling edgy today or nervous today. That would be something which would be a reprehensible concept to most individuals to even talk about or share in any sort of a broad framework also, that I may be feeling something which is different or difficult in a given context. And compound that with this need that we suddenly have of constantly trying to go towards greater, larger goals, running behind some of these achievable, at times even seemingly non-achievable targets, constantly feeling the need that you need to be busy, you need to keep yourself very occupied, you need to keep on doing something or the other, which compromises your ability to be able to take a reflective, introspective approach, to be able to step back and ask yourself that, am I really cultivating and building the right kind of systems within my life that make me feel that sense of joy or contentment? It's also loneliness within urban settings is also getting enhanced on account of the kind of structures that we have in place. A lot of organizations, for instance, had started bringing about changes in how they would set up the office spaces with those open, open layouts within their in their offices, because there was a recognition that people would just not communicate if they all had their own cubicles. But that's not the case across the board in all systems. We are not sure if we are necessarily encouraging more and more conversations. We don't engage with the outside world. We don't necessarily step outside. We're like literally shackled to the desk most of the times, constantly on our laptops. And then you have the gadgets, which are so engaging, which have such content, which is created in such fabulous ways that you keep on going from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And somehow life for a lot of individuals has gotten contextualized within what they are looking at within social media, instead of necessarily saying that, what, this is one piece, but I need to have real connects in the outside world with people who are there in my actual environment. And all of these things have contributed towards this urban loneliness, which has been setting in, and it impacts people's mental health in so many significant ways. You start feeling a lack of support systems. You start feeling that you're alone, that if you would have a problem, a challenge within your life, you don't know who you can turn to and seek help. In fact, a lot of individuals may feel a need to continue to be a part of relationships because they feel that even though they may not be the best for them, but there is no one else. Who do I talk to? So people start making not necessarily the best choices. What can all of this do? It can increase your anxiety levels. It increases your state of worry. It makes you constantly think and overthink, impacts your sleep, affects your appetite, can make you feel sometimes irritable, angry. You can become more reactive instead of responding to situations and looking for solutions to problems, because you constantly look at situations and feel that there are only problems around me. And it starts affecting your moods. You feel low, unhappy, dissatisfied, and stuck in a quagmire, not being able to figure out how do I pull myself out of this. And all of this keeps on compromising your state of mental health, your state of well-being.
Very, very well said, Kamna. In fact, I must tell everyone about the book. This is so simply written. I must really compliment both of you. I am not a person who's studied psychology, or, I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm just a plain reader. And I found this book so interactive, in the sense the narrative was so simple. You've divided this book into 4 sections, and the headings are so self-explanatory. And I really recommend everyone to definitely read this book, because the narrative itself, really explains the entire situation that you just spoke about. So hats off to both of you to write such a timely and a very, very important book. Thank you. Dr. Parikh, after having written the book, do you think that, and you feel really satisfied that the book can really help people to engage in caring for themselves and living mindfully?
I lost your voice in between. Sorry, say that again, please.
Yes. After having written this book along with Kamna, do you think and really feel satisfied that the book can really help people to engage in caring for themselves and living mindfully?
I mean, it's not as simple as that, to be honest. The fact is that some of us like reading. Some of us like, I'm a firm believer that books teach life. And when young people ask me the kind of books they should be reading, I talk about biographies and travelogues. Travelogues and biographies both widen the landscape of your understanding of people and life. When it comes to books like this, around, let's say, mental health, which can help you develop insight, if you read it at different moments and zones of your life, there'll be something different you'll find that will apply to you more directly.
Yeah.
The point is, for us, when it comes to mental health and writings in mental health, Kamna was talking about it, and even whether it is our approach in social media of community awareness, for us, it is about showing reality, being a bit of a mirror, and also being at some level guiding people so that the quality of life can be better. And that has to be the approach, which is so important.
And how about you, Kamna? What do you think is the main takeaway from the book for people who are going to read it?
I hope that people who do read the book can recognize what are the gaps that they probably are experiencing in their life. For every individual, there will be something which is completely different that they would connect to. It's about figuring out what it is that you may require in your individual life and setting. And you need to try and take active measures to bring about that change, because that change is possible, something which you were talking about in the beginning. A lot of times people just feel that nothing will change. There is no way forward. There is no solution to this situation that I am finding myself in. But that is not true. There will always be a way in which something can be moved, something can be shifted. And it's about finding a way to be able to reflect on it, sometimes talking to other people around it, which means you need to have a good support system, a set of friends, family members, colleagues, anyone who you can reach out to, connect with, discuss it with if you're feeling stuck in that moment. So you have to be able to remember that change is possible. You may just have to think a little hard and work a little harder to get to that space where you can bring that into your life. So I wish people are able to hold on to that piece far more strongly.
Thank you so much on that. And Dr. Parikh, before I move on to my interactive round, I just want to know one thing, that do you think loneliness right now is more of an epidemic? I mean, do you think it really affects the mind and body in a very, very negative way? I mean, what do you think as an expert, coming to the very serious note of loneliness?
So we are in the middle of a pandemic, so I don't like to use the word epidemic or endemics anymore. We've seen it and gone through it in a very, very difficult manner. I think loneliness is a reality. Our lifestyle over the past decade and a half has only made us more and more isolated and lonely. Because like Kamna was saying, whether it is about our investment in meaningful relationships and putting in effort, whether it is our taking time out for our own selves and bringing mindfulness and quality of life for our own selves, until we prioritize this and prioritize our well-being, mental health, and mental health here would be our social well-being as well, we'll continue to struggle. And somewhere we need to understand that. So you may be a young person who's just started college and gone to a new city It's not the new city that's going to make you feel lonely. It's you're not having the right connectedness with people around you, your colleagues, your peers, and maintain your communication back home. That's what's going to make you feel lonely. Similarly, if you started a job and you're doing very well at work, you give several hours at work, but if you're not taking time out for yourself to build meaningful relationships at work, staying in connected with your own family and friends, and don't take time out for yourself, eventually you will start feeling loneliness, which may actually come to you as a burnout because you just did not give yourself that space and that human stimulation that is so required. People need people. It's as simple as that. People need people. If people don't have people around them, and I've been saying this for the title, crowd is the solution. The title of the book is the solution. Crowd is the solution. You stay connected and don't let anybody feel alone. Nobody will be alone in the crowd. And if you don't put in the right efforts, both individually and at a societal level, you'll end up being alone in the crowd. So it's the problem and the solution is both in the phrase alone in the crowd.
So very well said. I think the title itself is very, very apt. And if we are suffering from loneliness, then obviously we are not the only one. It is, I mean, it's quite common. All we need to do is, as it says also in the book, that we need to acknowledge it. And there are a lot of solutions in the book which tell you how to deal with it. They're very, very simple solutions like maybe Kamna would like to speak a little about it. Some solutions that you've given in the book to cope up with this.
Some of the things that we do emphasize, one, of course, is that you need to start looking at investing in relationships. There is this unidirectionality which we have come to assume within relationships, thinking that people need to keep doing more for us, but we forget to give as much. And we have to remember that there is a reciprocity and a responsiveness that needs to be characterizing our relationships. That investment is a must, and it's something that we can all actively work towards. The solution also is in embracing the fact that, yes, you may be experiencing loneliness. You need to also embrace the emotional experiences that you end up having on account of what you're going through, instead of questioning it. And finding ways in which you can take care of those emotions, whether it is to find more areas within which you can express it, share it, connect to people. You have to find your solutions around that. Some of the other things which we do feel need to be emphasized also are looking at perhaps taking a little break from the constant consumption of content on social media, engage with it more mindfully, try to derive more meaningful information from it, be more aware of the kind of sources you select for it, but instead start shifting your attention towards other aspects of your life with the nature, with the environment, with figuring out what is it that you could do in your day-to-day life, maybe going back to your interests, some of your passions. And also one of the things that we do talk about, which is very important, is becoming more mindful in the ways in which we are living our lives. Even if it is a simple act of having a cup of tea, you need to be present in that moment. We're always constantly thinking of something which happened, anticipating something which may happen, a meeting, a conversation, a situation, but we're not there in that moment where we are going through what we're going through at that point in time. And that is something that we truly believe is one of the solutions to start getting rid of this aspect of loneliness, to start becoming more mindfully engaged to every activity, every action that we are taking in our lives.
And I must tell everyone, there are many, many more solutions in the book, but you definitely need to read the book and find it for yourself, and maybe your own personal problems will definitely be solved through this. I'd like to invite my first interactive guest. She is Aruna Singh. She's an educationist for more than 3 decades, an academic author of 2 books. She's a transformational life coach, and she's trying to help people to unlock and unblock themselves. Yes, Aruna, please.
Good evening, Doctor. It was a pleasure listening to both of you. And yes, this has become actually a concern with a child of 3 years to, I think, wherever the age takes you. And with children becoming so much involved with their own ways, I think older people are also facing major, major issues of becoming lonely in their lives. And recently, I want to state a small incident. The peer family, they were interacting on Zoom because they were living in 3 different cities. And the grandchild, the grandmother was saying that, okay, we want to come and meet you. And the grandchild, who is just 3 years old, she says, Ki, Dadi mat aana, I like being alone. So that was a shocking experience for everybody. So when you were saying that, yes, we are all social animals, but how to move out of this is the biggest question. That such a young child, how to teach that child that you have to be with people and you have to bear with people, because she could not go to school for the last 2 years. She could not meet people. So she's got so accustomed to being alone. So what is the solution here? Dr. Parikh.
So I'm, see it like this, I'm 50 and 2 years in 50 years of life. Seems a very manageable.
Small time.
Now, we're talking about a 3-year-old whose 2 years have been within the confines like it's been for us. That's 2/3 of the life. So there is no denial about the fact that this kind of lack of stimulation in the environment that kids have been, which basically means only one set environment and lack of exposure and all, would have an impact. We as adults don't need to get over rattled by it. We need to understand this is their way of adapting to a situation that they have been exposed to. Once we come out, there will be a transition. For some, the transition will be smooth. For some, they may require some effort. For some, it may be a tough one. But eventually, we will all readapt. We'll just need to give the time to kids. Meanwhile, the kind of stimulation children get at home needs to be also given a perspective. In fact, our previous book, again with Rupa Publications, written with, where both of us have written with our colleague Mimansa Singh, was around raising confident children. So here also we had an opportunity, and we have an opportunity, quality time, storytelling, art, relatives, sharing information about cousins, extended family, spending family time. So the nature of the time and stimulation in terms of social that children are getting now, there we need to try and compensate in a realistic manner that we can to help children go through these transitions as well. But children are remarkable adapters of life. Like it's in the most unbelievable way. Just give them 2 weeks or less, and they'll be jumping around in the playground and giving us a lot of joy.
Thank you so much, Dr. Parikh. Kamna, I have a question for you. Shall I?
Yes, please.
And most of the time, we are working parents, and both of us are busy in our own bubbles and striving to do better. And we have forgotten the different spokes of life, actually, other than career, earning, and possessions. So the other spokes of life, have been literally forgotten. I would say that it is about families, relationships, and your entertainment and fun, frolic. All those have gone for a toss, actually. So by the time we realize those things, the parents have lost a lot of time. So how do we put them back into this?
The fact that individuals, you can recognize that there is a skewed emphasis on one or two aspects of life, and there are so many other zones which need to be given some relative importance. I think that's the first step, because most often we do not even realize that we may be giving this disproportionate importance to certain aspects and not looking at other things that could also give us a lot of joy and happiness and bring more meaning into the life that we are living. I think one starts with that. what also ends up happening is that when we do recognize that there are these gaps, we want a sudden transformation. We want to go from 0 to 100 without realizing that that will not suddenly happen. So one has to take very slow, steady steps in reintegrating some small things to start with into the new routines that one wants to build. And I do believe that for couples, it's very important to find ways to be able to do both, some things which they can do together, also some things as an individual, so that there is that balance which is there. And there is certainly a way forward. It's about identifying what could be common areas of interest that can be explored, which are beyond just watching a show together. It could be about having a conversation with each other on a particular topic. It could be about, cooking together. It could be about looking at any aspect that you may be doing within the home, considering currently we are mostly homebound, which you could do together. And then also finding time and space to be able to at least incorporate one activity that you would like to do for your own self. Could be to just have that one cup of morning tea on your own, sitting in your balcony or your veranda and just gazing out at the sky and feeling that, okay, yes, I have these 10 or 15 minutes to myself where I can just allow myself to relax and then get ready to take on my day. So even those small, simple steps or activities can be integrated into our routines. And that's our first way to start going in that direction of changing that emphasis from just work, earning, building a life, to actually truly getting invested in the things which hold meaning and value for us. And that is something which is very much doable.
Great. Thank you, Aruna, and thank you, Kamna, for a wonderful answer to a equally wonderful question. Next, we have Yuvraj Dhingra. He's a student of class 12th in DBS. He's an avid reader, and he wishes to contribute to the society by becoming an IAS. Yes.
Good evening, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yes.
So, sir, I actually had two questions. So, one for you and one for ma'am. So, sir, talking about today's complex social life and the urban life, as the title of your book suggests, people are not able to find healthy coping mechanisms to battle stress and anxieties. So what's that basic point from where one can consciously decide that, yes, this is my respite, this is my comfort zone, and this is my healthy coping mechanism?
You'll know it by the results. If you are self-aware, life, your body, your mind will keep giving you real-time feedback. You will know that. So let's say you like listening to music and you're feeling good because you heard a nice track. Or let's say you are into art and creativity and you were painting and you felt nice. That's life giving you a message. You spend time with friends and you like it, life giving you a message. You spend 3 hours scrolling on social media. You didn't know where your 3 hours went, but when you get over with it, you're feeling a bit tired, eyes are feeling a bit droopy, you're feeling a bit exhausted. That was actually a message given to you by life in terms of your body telling you, listen, you could have done this lesser, you could have done something else. That's how you learn coping mechanisms. And the key is never hesitating to learn and seek help. Learn from whoever you can learn from and seek help without hesitation. That's how you will grow, mature, evolve, and be able to navigate through the maze that life is.
Right, sir. Also, the second part of the question, often in movies, or we can say in our ordinary lives, we often use the terms, or people use the terms like mental, or, in a very normal way, we say pagal hai kya or mental hai kya. And it has been normalized to such an extent that we often cannot see the point that it's actually very insensitive to speak to people like that. So how do we change this habit of people which has been normalized to such an extent over generations?
It's not been normalized, beta. It's been stigmatized.
Right.
Now that's the aspect. I think entertainment industry especially needs to look at not using mental health only for comedy, violence, psychopathy, and things like that. They've just stopped doing that. Creative expression, creative freedom does not mean feeding into stigma that hurts the society. Freedom of expression does not mean crossing the line and abusing. sensitivity is for all of us. In fact, this Friday 9 p.m. Both Kamna and I, as a part of, we do these spaces every 9 p.m. Friday night, 9 p.m. on Twitter Spaces, when our topic is mind your language.
Okay.
That you mind your language, because your language has an impact. So you're quite right. When we use words loosely, we may be feeling it's okay. But imagine somebody was listening to it, who was thinking about seeking help tomorrow, and felt all these people are mocking about this. Let me not tell anybody. Let me not go, which means I'll suffer in silence, even when help was available and efficacious help was available. Now that's where the issue is. So if somebody has an illness or somebody has an emotional distress, help is available, help is effective. Yet people hesitate to seek help. And that's why your question has so much meaning. Environment plays its own role. Environment needs to nurture each other, not hinder each other.
Right. Thank you, sir. And I have one question for ma'am. So this is based on a personal account. I remember when I was in class 9th or 10th, I saw lots of my friends and peers, and they engaged in very not so healthy coping mechanisms, and to be precise, they engaged themselves in self harm, and they the incision marks on their hands and arms, and a lot of people mocked them, and in school we have this concept of peer pressure. So a lot of people used to say that maybe they're doing it for attention, or maybe it's becoming a trend that people in 9th or 10th are doing it for attention. So why do we still see reservations and apprehensions about mental health, and why is it mostly from the teens itself, considering that teens are the ones who are considered the propellers of the winds of change, because they're the ones who are making the elders one aware about it?
I think this is also somewhere an extension of what Dr. Parikh was also sharing with you earlier in response to the question that you had raised. That somewhere it's our insensitivity and a lack of understanding a lot of times, which makes it difficult for people to be able to associate with or identify with or even understand at the most basic level what may be going on in another individual's life that could prompt them to take an action, which they could not consider could be an alternative in a given situation. It's our need in those moments when we struggle to have that understanding, which makes us want to distance ourselves from it, wants us to sometimes make us deny the existence of it. And in doing that, we often end up becoming very rejecting of what may be happening with another individual. We negate what their experience is. We raise a lot of questions around it. We form our own assumptions. And that is where a lot of stigma comes from, because we choose to keep on moving away instead of saying, let me try and engage, understand, and identify what may be going on here with an individual that may be prompting them to choose this particular course of action. And regardless of where this may be coming from, every individual can experience it and can experience this aspect within their own self. So even though teenagers often are the ones who can and do herald change, and they do make people question or inform adults around them about what's going on, what may be the changes which society is going through, but a lot of times they may also be hesitant and not be able to identify with what's going here, and they also want to distance and disconnect in their own ways.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Yuvraj. Next, we have Babita Batra. She's a homemaker and an ex-corporate, and she has a question. Yes, Babita.
I had the question which Kamna has already answered. What are the reasons to feel lonely? The other question which I'm experiencing is how to help and support a friend who's grieving, she's lost her spouse. I mean, we've been talking about how to, if you're feeling lonely, what you need to do. But I'm going, like, as a friend, how to help, what we can do to help and support the friends who are grieving, especially who's lost his husband. So that's the other side I'm taking. I'm not talking about the loneliness and how we can help. Yeah.
So one of the things I think which we need to try and understand when we are looking at grief or grief-related distress that individuals go through is that for every individual, they would have their own experience of it, and they would have their own process of working through it. A lot of times, I think what ends up happening is that in our own minds, when we see someone going through the grief of losing someone, we expect that it may be very similar to what it may have been like for us. But that is usually not the case. And I think that's the first thing that one needs to understand when you're looking at supporting someone who's going through their own grief related experience in their life, that their experience can be very different. A lot of times it may be difficult to even understand what's going on with them. They may want to sometimes push you away, sometimes they may break down, and you may not be able to understand where that's coming from. A seemingly unrelated situation may trigger a very large reaction, and you may wonder why this is happening. You may start observing certain changes which are coming in their moods, in their ways of doing things, in what they're seeking for their own selves as well, and you may find them being very lost. And that may be something that, again, you may not be able to necessarily identify with. But it's very important that as someone who is attached to this person, in whatever capacity that you're attached to this person, to keep on communicating to them that you are there in your own ways, just being able to demonstrate that you are there, available as a confidant, as a friend, as a support system, that they can reach out to you as and when they would need. And if they're telling you that I do not want you to I don't want to talk to you right now, it does not mean that they are not okay to also hear from you, wherein you reach out to them and say, just thinking about you, wanted to let you know I'm right here. So even something as simple as that could hold a lot of value and meaning for this individual, because they may have their own way in which they're trying to resolve their own experience and coping with that. So even these basic ways in which you may connect and reach out to them could be very helpful to the individual, and reinforce to them that whenever they feel ready, that they would want to communicate, talk, share, discuss what it is that they're experiencing, they can turn to you, and they would not have to wonder whether you are still in that zone where you would be open to understanding from them what it has been like for them.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Babita, for a very, very relevant question of our times. I think we're talking about a lot of such cases post-COVID. Yeah. Next, we have Pooja Gupta. She's a happiness coach and a counselor. And over to you, Pooja.
Thank you, Neeta, for having Dr. Samir and Kamna. It has been an amazing evening. Thank you so much. I'll be very brief. Kamna, this is for you first. Actually, if it's too personal, please do let me know. When in life did you feel lonely, and how did you sail through it?
I think that's actually a very difficult one to answer, because I think I have been very fortunate that I am actually surrounded by lots of individuals who have been very strong support systems for me. And I don't think they have ever let me get into that zone where I could have experienced that kind of loneliness. And I think that's fortune, that somewhere one has been able to cultivate those support systems. It's both in terms of one's personal space and also professional space. We have been able to be a part of a very large system, which is very connected, and where there is interdependence, and that is something that we all value a lot. And I think that's something which we truly believe in can actually help in ensuring that people are able to take care of their well-being as well. It's these relationships which, even in these last 2 years, have kicked in very significant ways, as we have all gone through our ups and downs in these past 2 years. And that's been one of the biggest factors which has been able to ensure that one can cope with the experiences, the difficult experiences, and not feel that you are alone navigating through the difficult situations that have come your way. So I think very fortunate in that way.
Thank you so much, Kamna. Dr. Samir, you stated your age, so I'm sure you will be able to answer this. how to get the youngsters, the millennials today, out of their cocoons. They feel that they don't feel that they're lonely. They say we're happy being alone, and that is their identity. They feel that that's what makes them remarkable. Honestly, because I'm a happiness coach, so I get across so many youngsters every day. So how to get them out of their cocoons, which actually will lead to loneliness? It does. We all know that. And the biggest thing is they do not acknowledge it. So I really want a sincere parental advice, being a doctor too. So a parental advice towards this, because I believe I just have one biological child, but I have thousands of children, students. So it is an advice for them.
See, the thing is that I just see young people, children, teenagers, young adults, slightly in a different way of sorts. So in our own program, I think everybody is half my age, right? So every couple of years, I have to adapt. And I've realized that. So every 2 years, 3 years, when the next generation comes in, they come in their own way. So for me to now make them work or do things in my way really doesn't work. It's much easier for me to adapt than to ask them to adapt. And how do you do that? By adapting to their likes and dislikes first. Bring that relatableness in a way so that then you can help them navigate the middle path of sorts. But one of the reasons why a lot of young people experience this, being in a cocoon and yet feeling that they are fine with it, is because they've allowed virtual engagements and virtual interactions to have a bit of a more meaning than what it deserves. So what happens is, you may be texting a friend, or you may be scrolling through a bunch of people you follow, and you get more and more messages about these people and their lives and so on and so forth, that the boundary starts being blurred and the virtual starts interfering in the real. So false perception of comfort happens. And only when there is a setback, you'll realize, oh, I wasn't with people. That's why school education needs to have mental health curriculum, life skills, psychological first aid, working with peer communities, strengthening peer communities, and that has to be one of the key pillars of our education system. Therein lies the solution. And frankly, the older we get, the more adaptable we need to be to youth.
Thank you. That was a beautiful answer. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Samir. Thank you, Kamna. Thank you, Neeta.
Thank you, Pooja. And she's, I just gave her a brief introduction, but she's a happiness coach and a counselor and relationship consultant and police soft skills trainer. Thank you, Pooja, for being here. Thank you. Because we are running out of time, we just have last 2 questions right now. Nena Sagar, she's an actor, author, and director in Capital Theatre Circuit for the last 15 years. So, Nena.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Neeta, for giving me this opportunity to interact with your esteemed guest today. What I want to know, more than wanting to know, I was just listening to various questions. One of the things that came across was loneliness as such. There are times when you actually wonder what loneliness is all about, because I remember that one question wherein about a 3-year-old kid telling the grandmother, I like being alone, don't come to meet me. So I sometimes wonder, isn't it an individual specific thing also, that they do like solitude, they do like being in their own zone, in their cocoons, and I for once the major issue with everyone in my family has been that, you know, you are so happy in your own zone. Many people tell me that. So I sometimes wonder, is something missing in me? What is missing? Why am I not more outgoing? But then when I'm directing plays, I'm outgoing because I have to direct actors. I have to be on backslapping terms with them. And, you know, so there everything comes in. And then when you go back, you feel, oh God, this is a Jekyll and Hyde personality. Why is that when I'm in my work zone, I'm being totally outgoing. But otherwise, I like to be alone. So my question is two-pronged. One is being alone not a choice anymore? Question mark. Because that comes to me many a times. If I like my solitude, why can't I be that? One. The second thing is, also I feel what Kamna ji said many times when she was answering the questions, that you need to have meaningful relationships in life. So to actually shake me out of my zone right now, I started a business. That was being very brave of me at my age to go out and start a business, because then I have to interact with people. There's no option. So that's why I did that, because I thought, let me go interact with people and let me see whether I have that in me to run a business. The third question what I have is, how does travel, like Dr. Parikh said about reading biographies, which I read by the truckloads, and travelogues. I love reading travelogues. I wanted to know how is reading different from actually traveling. I was thinking maybe I should now just pick up my car and travel alone. Okay, even if I travel alone, I will experience life how I am supposed to experience. These are the three questions I want to know, whether that kind of aloneness is okay. When you pick up your vehicle and you go around without any destination in mind and you just go about to embrace life. These are my questions. I would really like to know from Dr. Parikh and Kamna ji.
I think Kamna will answer this question. I don't drive at all. So I have younger people who have told me since now probably more than 14-15 years that I'm too hyperactive to be driving. So given my attention deficit and hyperactivity, I quit driving a long back, and I think I've served the society very well by staying away from the roads.
Okay.
So, and Kamna is a bit of everything that you mentioned. Likes to travel, likes to drive, and a lot of other things. I'm the old person who just prefers my little bit of reading and a little bit of Hindustani classical music, and that does for me.
Okay.
All yours.
I think what you're talking about is a distinction that I think a lot of people also would like to perhaps make. Wanting to be alone and actually experiencing loneliness would be two very different things. Wanting to be alone comes from a desire and individual choice where you prefer to be doing things on your own, and it's not happening because you just do not have anyone around you, and it's a situation that cannot be changed. It's a choice that you're making.
Right.
And loneliness is when you actually seek that connect within your own self, with your own life, with people around you, but on account of whatever situations have evolved to be, you're not being able to find that connect, and it helps you, or it not helps you, it makes you experience a certain void within your life, and it keeps on impacting your state of feeling good about how you're living, the kind of life you have, and it makes you question the kind of choices you've been making, and that would be the distinction. So if for you as an individual doing certain things on your own is a joyful experience, then that does not does not translate into you being lonely and thus making that choice, and that is absolutely okay. People would a lot of times choose to do things on their own, and that's perfectly okay.
Okay,
as well.
thank you. Yeah, I wanted to be sure because I was being run down by people. So I said, no, I like my zone. And because then I contribute better to my profession and whatever I do, because otherwise I have practically, surrounded by people most of the time. So you don't know. Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thank you, Nena.
Thank you so
And
much. Thank you so
She's
much.
shortly going into her business of beauty care. So that is how she's going to do. So we have one last question because we've taken a lot of time of Dr. Parikh and Kamna. We have Neeta Aneja. She's a class 11th commerce student from Delhi Public School. And she's a reader. She's a startup enthusiast and the co-founder of Trends Literature Series. Yes.
Hello, sir and ma'am. So thank you for writing this book. This is definitely a very important topic. It always has been, and specifically nowadays, it's gained more importance in everybody's eyes. So I just had one question. Is that what advice would you have for anybody, basically somebody who's planning to pursue a career or somebody like me who's going to be going abroad for college soon, that in terms of the fact that things might get overwhelming and you might not have a lot of people around you then. So how do you view things in a positive light?
It's the outlook, but right? At the end of the day, it's the outlook. You may look left, you may find a lot of darkness. You may look right, and there will be light. It's just that you train yourself to look for that light. Look for the solution. Problems will keep coming at you like darts. And you stay connected with your loved ones. They don't necessarily need to be your immediate neighbors, but you build relationships with your immediate neighbors as well. You may continue to have, like me, your best friends will be the ones with whom you went to school. Now what? 45, 46 years of a relationship. But that doesn't mean that they're one college friends, and doesn't mean that I don't have work friends whom I may have met just a few years back as well. You keep building on that and building on your social quotient in a way where your social bank is so strong that it's almost like, whom do I call, rather than, oh, whom do I call? The options should be so many that it should be difficult for you to choose. And each one of them should have a whole significant meaning for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Parikh and Kamna. Anything that we've missed out and you would like to talk about it before we end this session? It's been so lovely talking to you, so insightful and a very, very timely and valuable conversation. Something that you would like to talk about, which we have missed out in this conversation about the book? Dr. Parikh.
It's been a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Dr. Parikh, any last words from you?
I think I must here mention Kapish, MD from Rupa, and I must mention Rupa Publications because we continue to write with them. I think I've been saying this, when it comes to mental health, we are all stakeholders. I may have an expertise in a small little way in my branch, but that does not make you a less of a stakeholder. So when you, as a literature enthusiast, talks about a mental health related book, you've contributed to the cause of mental health. So Rupa Publication continues to promote, encourage us to write more. In fact, if it were on Kapish, then he would make me write many more books than what we are able to manage. But this year we'll come out with 2 books for sure. 2022 will see 2 books coming out. One of them will be on parenting, the other one that we are writing as well. Hopefully a 3rd one, if my colleague Divya is listening to this. Otherwise 2 books for sure. And that's and that's something which is important. And all of us need to put our efforts together, and that's key.
Lovely. And many, many congratulations for the book once again. I'm sure already it is creating a lot of buzz, and a lot of readers will come forward and really read about this very, very important topic. Many, many wishes to both of you, and we are waiting for many more books from your side. Congratulations, Dr. Parikh and Kamna and everyone who's joined in today. It's been a really very valuable session. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Rupa Publication, for making this session possible. And again, a reminder, please do subscribe to our channel, Trends Literature Series. Thank you so much. Thank you.